Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Omega Seamaster Professional 300m Apnea Free Dive Chronograph. You can see this 2003 model year specialist timepiece and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Omega Seamaster Apnea. Now, two versions of this watch were released in 2003. The version you see here with a matte black dial and a mechanically and dimensionally identical steel sister model with a vertically satin-grained silver dial. It looks almost like a stainless steel dial. This one is far more striking and far more focused as a diving tool, with absolutely no potential for glare about its dial. It offers nothing but high contrast and instant glance utility. Now, the watch and its sister were created as the result of a partnership between the record-setting free diver and perhaps one might say pioneer of the limits of human endurance, Jacques Mayol. And Omega provided the engineering muscle to realize his vision for a chronograph designed specifically for the kind of diving he did, which was free dive, long duration, no oxygen, no rebreather, no Momsen lung. And to that end, the watch's chronograph display is a highly specialized 7-minute display, each one of the red dots of the dial representing an individual minute of elapsed time. So let's talk about the fit, and then we'll get back into the specialist function of the watch. 41.5 millimeters across the round of the case is the dimension, not including crown guards, crown, or chronograph pushers. And I should mention, though they look like screw downs, they are not. The watch is fairly thick. The timepiece measures 16.5 millimeters thick, but you will note, to its credit, vis-a-vis a dress cuff such as a suit jacket or a blazer or a sport jacket sleeve, it does not have the helium escape valve. It's a rare example of an Omega Seamaster Professional 300 without the helium escape valve, so that mitigates against its height, allowing it to be perhaps a bit more viable with a jacket sleeve, if not the dress cuff beneath. Now, from lug to lug, the watch is a reasonable 48.9 millimeters across the wrist. If you were to throw it on a diving strap or a NATO or some sort of aftermarket non-bracelet, you would find that the watch is just under 49 millimeters across the wrist, but if you add the solid end links of the substantial 3-link bracelet included, it swells to 52.7 millimeters horizontally across the wrist. Now, the watch has a heft to it. Between the solid caseback, the massive case and bezel profile, a substantial 3-link bracelet with solid center and end links, you are always going to get something that felt meaty. This watch features a very distinctly different bracelet than we remember from most of the Seamaster 300 meters of this era. This was the era of the Bond Seamaster, and Pierce Brosnan had only recently finished his term as James Bond when this watch first came out in 2003. You can see it's almost reminiscent of the Rolex Oyster bracelet. All of satin finish. It has only a handful of polished facets, and then only in the transitional lip of the individual links themselves. You can see that there's no distinction between the centers and the shoulders of the intermediate link, as everything here is designed to reduce the potential for glare. The only real high polish on the watch is along the bevel of the case. So moving along the bracelet, you can see this was a different era of Omega when the watches were more accessibly priced for a meat of the market, where it at that time competed with the likes of Tag Heuer and Baume & Mercier rather than the likes of Rolex. However, the watch has stood the test of time both in terms of material and in terms of style. The diving clasp of the time remains an excellent piece. It was literally the industry standard at the time. Carved from a single block of steel with a meaty machined single fold, it featured trigger release so that you had to positively disengage it to pop it open, absolute security when closed. It also featured a crisp action about the diving clasp, and I'll pull that out so you can see. Beautifully milled like the swing arm for the deployant, quite secure, and though you may never use it for diving, that is, you may never put it over a wetsuit or a dry suit, it also works a charm over thick winter coats and sweaters. Now, moving back to the timepiece itself, you can see that the bezel is a bit of a standout compared to other Seamaster 300 meter models. It features an all satin finished top with lacquered calibrations in red and black. There's a small amount to wear at 55. Now that can be replaced in a service with Omega, but we preferred to leave the watch original and defer that decision to the future owner of the timepiece. It is a unidirectional rotating dive bezel. It does have a luminescent pearl. It can be easily lined up with the minute hand for a quick 0 to 60 minute chronograph functionality that the more specialized apnea chronograph doesn't provide. So you have the ability to time the free dive or anything that may amount to, let's get the system running again, that may amount to 7 minutes. And you can actually easily track 14 minutes because the displays will turn red and then they will turn black once more. But you have that bezel in reserve if you want to time something longer or you want to time something concurrently. The dial, and you can see it probably best from this angle, features a matte non-glare finish. All applied indices, an upscale refinement for Omega Seamasters of this period. The hands were specifically designed for this purpose with consultation from Jacques Mayol. He wanted to be able to see the scale of the chronograph no matter what. Each circle represents 1 minute elapsed, and he wanted to be able to view it regardless of the position of the chronograph seconds hand, which you can see as a skeletonized leaf or foy style, and then these highly imaginative but nevertheless also highly functional hour and minute hands that leave the scale completely visible at all times. So it's a very functional dial and it's very bright. There's going to be a Lume shot at the end of this video, so stay tuned once the conventional reel ends. Now you'll note perhaps better lighting from this angle. There is a tremendous amount of depth to this dial, starting at the hands down to the indices and then down past the plane of the dial base onto the red timing disc. This watch has a lot of color and character. I mentioned that the crowns for the actuation of the chronograph are not actually screw down. They only look like screw downs, but you can actuate them in place. It's more of a stylistic consideration to appear symmetrical with the shouldered crown guard than a functional requirement. The watch does have 300-meter water resistance, however. Now, the caseback is blazoned with both the name of Jacques Mayol, the godfather of this model, as well as his interaction with dolphins, which interested him, intrigued him, and largely consumed the later part of his career as he worked to explore the intelligence, physiology, and parallels between humans and dolphins. So this was an important part of his life, and he chose that symbology to represent him on the back of his signature model. You can also see that the watch is a chronograph, but not a conventional one. This is not a Value 7750 base in here. It's actually a modular construction on top of an ETA 2892A2 ultra-thin automatic. It's known as the 3601. It has a 44-hour power reserve. It uses bidirectional winding rather than the unidirectional of the 7750. It does have hacking seconds, so if you pull out the crown, you will actually stop the chronograph seconds hand. It's a tough 4 Hz or 28,800 vibration per hour movement. I will mention that because it is a vertical clutch system, thanks to the chronograph module, if you prefer to have chronograph seconds running continuously, because if you don't, you'll note that it is quite a static dial. It has no constant seconds indicator. You have to leave the chronograph running so you can have hours, minutes, and seconds, etc. And because of the vertical clutch, there is no additional hazard or wear and tear for doing that. This is a rare model, and it can easily be called a current collectible and a cult watch. Whether it ultimately moves into the pantheon of all-time great Omega sports watches is beyond my crystal ball for the moment, but it already has an immense following, entire internet's worth of collectors, and superb credibility on fora far and wide. This is one for the future, but also one to enjoy in the present. You can see and you can purchase the Seamaster Professional 300-meter Apnea on our website. And we're back with the Omega Seamaster Professional 300-meter Apnea Jacques Mayol. Now what you can see here is that the watch absolutely functions as a diver with its luminescent pearl able to align with the minute hand, but you can't see the apnea chronograph functions. So the watch is designed principally for use as a diving watch first, with the apnea chronograph functionality more of a curiosity perhaps than a functional advantage, as at any point that you would need to consult a free diving watch, you're probably below the plane of visible light under the surface. So this watch, abundantly visible as a surface timekeeper, phenomenal for desk divers. See it and purchase it on our website.